What is up, leaders? I am sitting out here by Vienna in the ruins of downtown Maryville. Um, yeah, and just want to get this video out to you. Just finished up the message. So we're talking about David again, and talking about Mephibosheth, which, if you've never heard that, is a really cool story. It's 2 Samuel chapter 9. It's very short, about 13 verses. So if you haven't read that, go ahead and read that. It's a very powerful story. But basically, the story is that David's finally become king. Saul's dead, and so he's able to take over the kingdom. And Saul has a kind of a surviving family member. It's actually Jonathan's son named Mephibosheth. And David had made a promise to Jonathan that he would take care of his family, and so he looks for this guy Mephibosheth, Jonathan's son, and one of the servants that knows him says, yeah, he lives here. He's actually crippled, whatever. And this is significant because David wants to take care of this man, when normally the norm for a king is to kill the family of the previous king, to make sure nobody tries to cause an uproar or to overthrow the current king. And so he goes out, looks for this cat, and finds him, and brings him into his house and says, hey, listen, Mephibosheth, you're gonna sit at my table. And basically says, you're gonna be a son of the king. You're my son, and every night you're gonna be my son. And he sets him up and gets him a house and sets him up with a staff to take care of all his fields. And he says, hey, listen, take care of all his stuff, and make sure there's food on the table. But it doesn't matter, because I want you eating at my table every single night. And this man that was crippled and broken and maybe really didn't even have a right to live, in the eyes of some of those people in that time, is made a son of the king. And the reality is that we a lot of times like to look at ourselves as David and saying that we're bringing in people and taking care of them, and actually we are Mephibosheth and we're crippled, and Jesus has come and he's invited us to sit at his table. And I think obviously a very powerful salvation kind of message, so I'm excited. God's going to do some cool things with that. But I think that a lot of times we don't accept the invitation to sit at God's dinner table because of some lies that we believe about ourselves. And I think they're lies that Mephibosheth had to overcome so that he could go and sit at David's table. So the first one is that we believe that God doesn't want crippled people. He doesn't want people that are crippled by their sin. And in reality, that's when God does his best work. Is he helps the crippled people through life. He carries them. There's a story I'm going to share, the '92 Olympics, where a runner tears his hamstring, and then his dad comes out and helps him, carries him across the finish line. And that, if that's not just a picture of our God, I don't know what is, man. How he wants to just help crippled people finish the race. A second lie that we believe is that God doesn't want dirty people, and we think that our past is so bad that we have to kind of clean ourselves up. And Mephibosheth would have been a homeless man at this point. Now his father is dead, and his grandfather is no longer king. He probably was out begging, couldn't work because he was crippled, and so he was probably dirty, little homeless, and didn't have much. And what I love is David doesn't tell his servants, hey, go find this guy, teach him how to walk, get him a shower, get him cleaned up. I don't want to be around that smell. But once he's cleaned up, bring him, and then we can talk about him having dinner with me. He just says, hey, go get him. He needs to have dinner. And then David helps him. David helps him get cleaned up. David gets him some new clothes. David gets him a house. Like he takes care of, and that's so true of our God. He doesn't expect you to get cleaned up before you come to dinner. And then the final lie that we believe is God doesn't want people that are useless. In the passage, Mephibosheth says, man, what do you have use for with an old dead dog like me? And so this guy looked at himself like a dead dog. I'm useless. I can't do anything for you. Why are you being nice to me? And the reality is that God doesn't want you to bring anything to dinner. He doesn't need you to bring a side dish. He doesn't need you to contribute. He doesn't need you to clean up afterwards. Like, he just invites you to dinner. He just says, come sit at the table. I'll take care of the food. Just come sit at the table. And so we're actually going to do a really cool response moment to where we'll have placeholders. I'll have a couple tables set up like it's dinner time in the front, and we'll have placeholders that they can write their names on and hold their spot at the table of God, because He's inviting them. I think it's going to be a powerful night. I'm super excited. You guys, if you would, reach out to your students and send a text out and just say, hey, listen, you have some lost friends, man. This is the week to bring them. This is the week to bring them. And I'm just believing God to do some amazing things at this night. So I love you guys. I will see you on Wednesday. Peace.